To the dangerous tantrum thrown by Labor's Ed Husic. Now, this identity politics pushed by the Albanese government is turning our Australian nation into just a bunch of tribes, each fighting for their own. And now it's backfiring on the government and us all. Ed Husic was the Albanese government's industry minister. He's now been dumped by Labor's right-wing faction. They promoted him last time, by the way, to make room in Albanese's ministry for Sam Ray, another faction player of the right. We discussed it earlier in the show. Now, Husic is a Muslim and yesterday played the religion card, falsely claiming he was dumped in part for criticising Israel, and Muslims needed him there.
You can't celebrate diversity and then expect it to sit in a corner silent.
Do you think this has cost you?
Oh, I think it's been a factor, in particular on issues like Gaza. There needed to be faith in Muslim communities around the country that their voice was being heard. That was really important. A lot of communities, members of Muslim communities, stayed with the government through this election, and I would hate to think that they've felt abandoned after that.
See how this poisonous identity politics works? Here's Ed Husic fighting for personal political power by playing the Muslim card and spreading the falsehood that Labor was anti-Muslim by dumping him, even though, by the way, they today promoted a Muslim woman in his place, okay? And his message was echoed even by Muslim radical Sheikh Wissam Chalkawi. He's the convener of the Muslim Vote. He said Husic being dumped wasn't about performance, it's ideological cleansing, he said. Muslims are welcome in politics only when they are convenient. Joining me is the panel, Liz Storer of The Late Debate, here on Sky weekdays at 10 p.m, and Stephen Trevura, an author and senior lecturer in history at Campion College. Stephen, what you saw from Husic, that's the new tribalism, isn't it? Using the politics of race and religious identity to whip up grievances for personal advantage?
It sure is, and to misappropriate Winston Churchill, men who ride wild tigers dare not dismount. And Labor has been riding the wild tiger of identity politics hard for decades now. They've been going on about Islamophobia in Australia. In fact, Anthony Albanese just last year announced a special envoy to combat Islamophobia and a similar envoy for anti-Semitism. And so they've been riding this pretty hard. And now, they've gotten off the tiger and the tiger's turning around and snapping back at them. And this is one of the reasons that Labor found it so hard to navigate the Israel position, because the fact of the matter is, in Sydney, you've got the Blaxland electorate, and now Labor electorate, which has 32% Muslims. In Watson, next door, you've got the electorate with 23% Muslims. And Labor has to be very, very careful about this issue, and this is an issue that they themselves have created. Now, this kind of religious sectarianism in Aussie politics is nothing new. We had it in the 1950s with the Labor split between the left in Labor and the conservative Catholics. But now that we sort of thought we'd gotten rid of the Protestant Catholic sectarianism in Australia, it looks like we've actually imported a whole new sectarianism in Australia, which really became obvious not just after 9/11, but also now in the midst of this conflict between Israel and Hamas. And quite frankly, brought to you by both political parties, courtesy of the ideology of multiculturalism.
And Liz, also dumped from the Albanese government's ministry, was the only Jew, Mark Dreyfus. So should Jewish people say, where's ours? Where are the Hindus in that cabinet? Where are the Sikhs? You know, where are the Buddhists? I mean, ridiculous. How many categories of identity should that cabinet or that ministry embrace?
Indeed, Andrew. It just goes to show that Husic's claim here, and indeed the Sheikh backing him in, it's got no basis in fact, especially as you pointed out, Anne Ali, who is also a Muslim and has echoed Husic's sentiments regarding Gaza the entire time. She's now been elevated to cabinet. So the idea that this is some sort of ideological cleansing simply falls flat. But I would argue this isn't new tribalism at all. It's as old as time itself. Humans have always organised themselves into tribes, warring tribes, peace-pact tribes. This is the way it's been throughout time immemorial. And I think the main reason why societies across the West are now so divided is because this idea that we've all been sold, this narrative of the wonders of diversity and inclusion, is predicated on this idea that humans aren't tribal, which we are. It's inherent, it's innate. This can take many forms. It's not always religious. It's not always race-based. It can be someone's sporting team. It can be like the idea that you're part of a political faction, which is what we clearly saw in Ed Husic going. This was simply a faction war, but people are now being told, no, we're not tribal. Everyone can get along. It doesn't matter how diverse we are. History bears out that this has never, and as far as I'm concerned, will never be the case.
No, but Liz, I agree with you. It's a human instinct, but I have to say the ideal, like preached by Christianity, this is basically a Christian culture, weak though it might be now, it has been based on love thy neighbour as thyself, the Good Samaritan, reaching out. There is, one God, but lots of people under that one God, all that kind of stuff. We've been told not to accept tribalism, to look beyond that. And this is different. What we're seeing here is different. It's a victimology, which I think is very toxic, very dangerous. But speaking of things, Christian, the new Pope, Pope Leo, born in Chicago, gave his first Sunday message at the Vatican yesterday to a huge crowd.
As Pope Francis has repeatedly stated, I too appeal to the great ones of the world, repeating the ever-relevant plea, no more war.
But Stephen, unlike Pope Francis, this seems a pope that might actually speak truth to dictators and warmongers. I mean, there's a video of him that's emerged where he attacks Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. It's war crimes there, something Pope Francis didn't do. Calling out political leaders in South America who are turning a blind eye. Have a look.
Nosotros también, incluso algunos políticos en nuestro país, no quieren reconocer los horrores de esta guerra y de la maldad que Rusia está pues realizando en toda su actuar ahí en Ucrania.
Stephen, what do you make of this Pope?
Oh, well, I mean, it's looking very hopeful. I mean, this Pope follows two very controversial popes. So you had Pope Benedict XVI, who was a very conservative pope, and so he was very disliked by the left in the Catholic Church. And then you've just had Pope Francis, who was a very left-wing pope. In fact, I think Greg Sheridan said that he was fully on board with the global left or something along those lines in a recent article. And so now you've got a pope who has named himself after Leo XIII, the late 19th century pope, who sought to take a sort of centrist middle ground between unbridled capitalism and communism, in a way just try to sort of unite two schools of social thinking and sort of harmonise the best parts of them. And I suspect that this Pope is going to try and do the same thing. And, so he's got fairly standard views on climate change, for example, but on other issues, for example, life and LGBT and trans ideology, I found him to be very good. He was very outspoken against the extreme advocacy of abortion of Hillary Clinton and singled her out specifically, but has also said, he's on the record saying that the trans ideology confuses people, makes up genders that don't exist, and he even lobbied against its introduction in schools in Peru. So this actually might be what you call a bridging pope, and so this actually could be a really good way forwards to get rid of some of the divisions between Catholics. Look, maybe for the next 10 years or however long this Pope lives.
Liz, the Pope's desire for world peace might seem a bit tested by his own brother, though. His brother first didn't answer the Pope's calls for a couple of hours and then put him on speakerphone with the media listening in. Have a look at this.
Well, why don't you answer your phone? Well, first you need to know you're on the air right now. This has been going on since 11 o'clock this morning. This is the first time I'm hearing that this thing rang, and we are being filmed and recorded.
Right now?
Right this very minute.
Liz, that's not the act of a brother with any media smarts to put the Pope straight to air like that. I suspect, being American, this Pope's going to get a lot more media scrutiny, though.
I suspect you're right, Andrew. I mean, thank goodness the Pope didn't answer or give him a call and give him a greeting that a typical sibling would. He could have said anything at that moment. I know if I was taking a call from one of my siblings, goodness knows what's going to come out of our mouths first things first. But thankfully, the Pope did not say anything untoward except to supposedly rebuke his brother for taking that long to take his call. But you can tell John Prevost there was really enjoying his time in the spotlight. Yes, I've got
Loving
the new
it.
Pope on the line. Incredibly immature, but I'm sure that his brother will give him a good thumping for it once he's off the air.
You mean not a good prayer or a blessing, something else of this story? Stephen Trevura, thank you very much to you both.